Did you hear that? The 13th chime. It shouldn't exist, but we all know it's there, hiding behind the face of that demon clock. Once more it is time for the veil of shadows to be lifted. Once more it is time for the Hallow-Holics Anonymous podcast.
Sea Lullaby. The old moon is tarnished with smoke of the flood. The dead leaves are varnished with color like blood. A treacherous smiler with teeth white as milk. A savage beguiler in sheathings of silk. The sea creeps to pillage. She leaps on her prey. A child of a village was murdered today. She came up to meet him in a smooth golden cloak. She choked him and beat him to death for a joke. Her bright locks were tangled. She shouted for joy. With one hand she strangled a strong little boy. Now in the silence she lingers, beside him all night to wash her long fingers in the silvery light.
Live from a gingerbread house in the middle of the woods, playing strip poker with Hansel and Gretel. I'm Chris.
I'm Julianne.
And I'm Maddy. And this is the Hallow-Holics Anonymous podcast. That was a good poem.
I was, and very on subject with what we're talking tonight.
Yes, children's horror. I personally think it's really essential to expose kids to fear in movies so they're a little bit less afraid of major things occurring in their own lives.
That's a good point, because I really didn't watch, I watched like a few children's horror movies, but I didn't watch any like actual scary movies, and now because of that I'm really frightened of a lot of things in life.
Including real horror.
Horror movies genuinely scare me and keep me up at night.
She will peek through her fingers to watch a movie if she has to.
I do. I still peek through movies, even just like some scary scenes in TV shows. I'll like just peek through my fingers, like any sort of like detective show with like murder or something.
Oh my God, Sherlock! Don't investigate that bullet!
You'll hear her mummer under her breath, man. You'll just hear, "Oh God. Oh God, no.
Oh,
No, why are you doing that? Don't go in there."
Stop it! Stop it!
Julianne, she's going to the bathroom.
Yeah, but she does the double turnaround.
Oh, the double turnaround.
The double turnaround always gets me.
I always wonder why they go upstairs.
And why is it so creaky? Like, that should be an indication to just not even bother with the stairs.
Or even live in that house, frankly. I mean, it's got some stability concerns.
Stop bringing logic into this.
Bring logic.
We got a little distracted. Children's horror, that was what we're talking about.
Yes.
Now, I have a few favorite, like, children's horror writers. R.L. Stine, Roald Dahl. Well, what about you? Who do you think is, like, one of the best children's horror writers?
Oh, I can tell you, but I've not read any of the books, unfortunately. But it's those, like, scary stories.
Oh, those are good. Yeah.
Those are horrible, horrible, scary stories.
The ones to read after dark?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Those.
I'll be honest, I've read all of them, and they're the occasional one that I'm like, whoa, this is not for children. Why is that in this book? Why is this in the children's section?
How is decapitation okay for children?
Well, oh gosh, there was this one story with these two guys who, like, didn't like their neighbor, and they made a scarecrow to look like him, and they bullied the scarecrow. You know that one, Chris?
I know that one.
Oh,
that is
God.
A scary story.
That sounds horrifying.
Oh, it gets worse.
The ending is the worst.
It's horrible!
It is.
Oh, my God.
Is it spoilers to say what it is, or?
Fine.
Let's go ahead and give a warning. Do we know the name of the story?
No.
Okay, if you start reading a story about a scarecrow, guys, or if you want to read a story about a scarecrow and you don't want to know the end, and it's in one of those scary storybooks, then turn off the podcast for a few minutes, or skip through a few minutes, because Chris is about to spoil it for you.
I'm going to skip to the direct ending of what I remember. As a child who never really read books, I just kind of skimmed through, and that one I actually read from beginning to end, but the thing that really stuck out was one of the friends escaping, the other friend staying behind, and him walking away, and I believe it was in the sunlight, right, Madeline?
It was in the sunlight, yes.
In the sunlight, looking back toward the, I think the farmhouse they were at. He was on the roof. He had the skinned body of his friend.
Oh my god!
He was laying the skin out to tan it in the sunlight.
Yeah.
It's too bad you cannot see how horrified the look on my face is right
Well,
now.
it's okay. You got to block your face while he was talking.
That's horrifying. That's genuinely dark.
Yeah.
And,
You know what that reminds me of? Is those, like, grim fairy tales.
oh, yes. They always have a moral, though.
Yeah. But they're always, like, really bad. I can't remember. I think it might be the Cinderella one. I'm not 100% sure, but
Okay.
I know.
Is there a girl named Cinderella?
See, that's the problem. I just know that. No, actually, I don't think it was Cinderella. I think it's the one about the girl where the gold would come out of her mouth.
Oh, I remember that. That's not a scary fairy tale. Oh,
It's not
wait.
scary.
Okay,
I'm talking
that's
about, like,
what
the
happens.
torture at the end.
Where the snakes and frogs come out of the evil sisters' mouths.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, well, I'm just, I didn't do my research, obviously, but one of Grimm fairy tales ends with her stepmother and her stepsisters being put into barrels full of spikes and then being rolled down a hill.
That one would be the Goose Girl. It's a completely different story.
Ah, that's it. It's Goose Girl. I couldn't remember which one it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, she actually had it coming to her because, well, we're not here to summarize all the fairy tales out there, but that is a good one. Chris, would you like to tell us what the mystery movie you selected was?
I went ahead and chose my mystery movie as Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
And would you care to explain to us why that is horror?
Very good question. Okay. Everything's happy. Nice, happy-go-lucky. Then, children slowly start disappearing, and you're like, hey, okay, it left it really ambiguous. Maybe the kid got out okay. They never really did tell you. Did Augustus get out of the weird little pipe okay? Did they get him out before he made it to the next horrible processing plant?
Well,
Maybe he's in the chocolate.
I think Willy Wonka was intentionally being vague to teach the parents a lesson first. I think he probably had ways to get those kids out.
You see that? I saw it more as he really didn't care. Willy Wonka, while he seems like a nice guy, really seems morally, once again, ambiguous.
Sadistic.
He's also been by himself for a really long time.
A very long time, with his just Oompa Loompas, which don't really seem to talk. They sing to him. Can you imagine how insane that might drive?
Well,
people?
for the uninformed listeners, we're talking about the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory movie.
Not the Tim Burton.
Not that. Not that.
I didn't think it was that bad, but it's a very, very different movie.
Oh, it's very different.
The way I look at it is that I showed my nephew watched it, and he's 4, and he watched both the movies. He does not like the remake at all, and he's a child, and he much prefers the first one. That kind of speaks levels about the movie.
Chris, how much money did it gross at the box office?
That is a very good question that I
You
will
didn't pull it up, did you?
slowly answer. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory grossed
Yeah?
$4 million when it was released, with a budget of $3 million.
That's not an incredible profit, but I mean, it's still a profit, so.
Indeed, especially for what it was the 70s.
71.
Yeah.
$1 million in the 70s.
And I've read that Roald Dahl actually really didn't like that adaptation.
He doesn't like most of his adaptations, though.
Well, yeah, that is true, but I think one of his major concerns was that the Oompa Loompas were singing and not talking in verse, and I don't think he liked the makeup.
Oh, and yeah, one thing I read was that he thought that there was too much emphasis on Willy Wonka, and they didn't really focus on Charlie too much.
Yeah. I will admit I do like a few of the songs, but I've never been a fan of that movie either.
Gasp!
Yes,
I'm
why?
sorry. I don't know, it didn't... I think it was the slow pacing for me.
Oh, Madeline.
Did you know the actor that played Charlie, like, growed up to be, like, a farmer? Like, how fitting is that for that character?
Let me just say this. Gene Wilder!
I do love Gene Wilder. I mean, Young Frankenstein is one of my favorite movies ever. And
Blazing Saddles.
yes, Blazing Saddles. No, I don't think Gene Wilder was bad in the production. I think he did good with what was given to him. I don't know. I just don't like the movie. It's one of those films I can't provide a full, in-depth explanation. It just was never my thing.
Did you read the book?
I have read the book, yes.
Did you like the book better?
I didn't like the book either. I don't think I like the story.
Yeah, you probably just don't like the story to its core.
And
we should mention the tunnel scene and how scary that is.
Yeah, the tunnel scene is pretty good, the way they do it. It seems out of place, but...
It was very out of place, but, I feel, if anything, that's the one point in time he was probably trying to mess with them.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else was just him being himself. That was him being like, I think I'll have a little fun with these guys.
Yeah, and I think it also reveals the intense isolation he had, living there alone for so many years, except for the dwarves with orange paint on their faces.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I think he might lack some empathy in that sense.
I also wonder if he just liked hiring short people, making them dress up like that and wear makeup as a sort of, like, sadomasochistic torture.
Yeah, that was a subplot of the movie.
They never explained where Oompa Land was.
Yeah, maybe he was being sarcastic.
Oh, that's just... Oh, and he makes them sing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's just adding a real creep level to it now.
That definitely makes it a horror film. Psychological terror we don't see the other side of.
I feel like this is probably cheating a bit, but just go to YouTube and look up the horror trailer for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
I'll post that on the blog later.
That is actually really fantastic, those horror remakes on YouTube of movies. Like, what was that one movie they did, Miss Doubtfire?
Oh,
it was truly scary.
Yeah, it's amazing what fans can do with just a video editing program and a few creepy songs.
Well, and to be fair, also, Mrs. Doubtfire, also a bit of a scary movie.
Well, we're not talking about Mrs. Doubtfire. No, I'm not going to allow you to just take every comedy film and adapt it for the horror podcast.
No adaptation needed, but let's move on then.
I guess is there anything else we have to say about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory first?
It ends really ambiguously also.
Yeah.
Did they make it down okay?
Who knows? I'm going to optimistically say they did, but...
As a pessimist, I will say they probably crashed, and the Chocolate Factory ended up going over to the survivor, Augustus, who actually crawled his way out, tamed the Oompa Loompas, and started a chocolate revolution.
Chocolate revolution. Well, that sounds actually more optimistic than pessimistic.
But not for Charlie.
Not for Charlie, no. Well, he's kind of Who cares about Charlie anyway? I will say that I do love the actor who played the grandfather in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, he's amazing.
Oh, yeah, he was really just sweet. He was very sweet grandfather. I really liked that.
Yeah.
That scene with the grandparents is very odd in that movie, too, where they're all in, like, the bed, I guess just, like, dying together. Like, that's really weird.
Yeah, that's Jack Albertson, by the way, and he has been in another movie I would suggest Julianne watch called Dead and Buried from 1981.
That's scary.
It's pretty good, though, Julianne.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna slowly watch some horror movies, maybe the children-based ones.
Maybe start with the ones with, like, cheaper effects.
Nah, it doesn't matter.
The Exorcist, perhaps.
Oh, no.
Oh, The Exorcist is a great movie. It's a classic.
I know. Okay, but we're not talking about The Exorcist. We're talking about children's horror. I don't think anyone would show a child that movie, or I would hope not.
Okay, segueing, let's go into the next picture we're focusing on, which is another Roald Dahl story.
And it's actually, like, one of my favorite movies as a child.
Oh, mine too.
Witches.
That has to be, even now, for me, like, once a year viewing, at least.
We watched it last night. Chris had never seen it.
Never seen it.
Oh my god. What were your first impressions?
It was okay.
That's it?
Yeah.
Well, it was really unexpected, a lot of the things that happened in that movie, though.
I will give it that. It had some twists in there I was not expecting.
Did you like Rowan Atkinson?
Bean.
Oh, Mr. Bean. Of course. Who doesn't love that guy?
It was really funny because I forgot he was in that movie, and then during the credits, I was like, oh! I was like, yes, I forgot he played that role, and I got really excited. So, obviously, there's going to be spoilers for this because
Yeah, I think in order to have any cohesive movie discussion, there are going to be some spoilers. So let's just get that out of the way right now. Every episode is going to have spoilers, period.
Okay. So the great thing about this movie is like an unexpected twist, and it's not at the end. It's in the begin. It's like the middle beginning of the movie is when the little boy actually does get turned into a mouse. Because I remember Chris was just like, I did not expect that to happen.
And I will say that since this is all physical effects, there's no CGI because it was made in like, what year was it made, Julianne?
It was made in 1990.
1990.
Yeah.
And it just the effects aged really well.
It does. Watching it last night, I mean, I have like my TV's pretty high def, and I mean, it looked great. It looked fantastic. Like, obviously, the little mouse talking, you could tell, but
it was still cute. Yeah.
It was really cute. And the Grand High Witch in that movie is a really terrifying scene.
Oh, yeah.
Feel.
Angelica Houston, man, she can play a witch.
She's so fantastic. I will not forget that scene where, like, she calls the boy up to the stage, and then she starts doing that weird, like, gyrating motion.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so creepy and wonderful.
I will say that when I was a kid and I'd watch this movie, the opening story with the painting made me cry.
Yes, and then she ages. Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
She seemed to have a good life. She was playing with ducks and...
So I wonder if she could see out of the painting.
I imagine she could. She seemed to be staring straight at her family.
Yeah, just sad, kind of watching everyone's lives go by. Couldn't communicate with them.
So weird. I wonder what happened. Did she die before her parents? Like, what happened with her painting? I'm curious.
I don't think she died before her parents. It's just that when she had gotten old and she disappeared from the painting, that meant she was dead, gone.
Yeah, I'm just curious about, like, her parents taking care of that painting throughout the years.
Yeah. Well,
I wonder if they had painted something in, would it have affected her life? If that makes sense?
Well, I mean, there were geese in it, weren't there, that she would feed?
Yeah.
I'm sure that would have affected her life, but I mean, then you would have been taking a little 5-minute narrative story and turned it into the whole movie.
I know. I really like that. I really liked that spell and story because it really leaves a lot to the imagination.
Yeah. And it also established really well, right from the get-go, that these witches are evil.
Yep.
That you don't want to mess with them.
They're evil. Oh, man. And also the characteristics of the witches in that movie was really good because I think it was a little different. Like, obviously the Grand High Witch was what you expect a witch to look like.
Yeah.
But the long fingers and the no toes, the squared off feet.
And it all looked great.
Oh, it all did. Oh, it was so funny when they were all in the ballroom together. Chris was like, "Are there men in there?"
I was like, those are guys in the back. I saw that.
There were a few men. There were.
Yeah.
That guy distinctly has an Adam's apple. I can see it from here.
Well, who says a witch can't be a man?
Very true.
Well, that's what actually I was thinking about that movie is why was there no, like, male witches that, like, dressed like men?
Well, I mean, men don't have, like, I don't know, maybe it was just a coven thing, you know? I think they had men playing some of the witches to make them look a little bit more off.
Yeah, I don't think that they were supposed to be men. I just think they were supposed to be...
Really ugly witches.
Yeah. Also, there's something in that movie that actually, watching it now, really bothered me. Maybe it's just because I do have a little bit of knowledge about health because of what I'm going to go to, because my future career I'm going to be like a health professional, not like a nurse or anything like that, office work. But they were talking about the grandmother having diabetes in that movie.
Yeah.
But they were treating it like she had like the flu, like, oh, it'll go away soon. You just need to take a rest for the weekend. I'm like, that is not how diabetes works at all.
I think they were just saying that because it was pretty much she was going to die. I think they were just saying that to make Luke feel better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I looked it up. I actually looked it up about the book because I had not read the book, but I read some of the stuff about the book. And in the book, she does not have diabetes. She has pneumonia.
Mm-hmm. Well, I read the book years ago. I couldn't tell you much except that the ending is very, very different.
Yeah, it's completely different from the movie. So in the movie, it has actually more of a happy ending with one witch surviving, and I guess she turns into Gilda the Good Witch in the end.
Yeah, let me ask really quick, what was that exactly?
Well, I mean, all the witches were evil. In the original ending for the book, Luke just knew he was going to spend the rest of his life as a mouse, and that meant he had 2 years left to live. But he was fine just living that long because he didn't want to live without his grandma anyway. I think people found that ending was a little too dark for a children's story, so they did something to change it, and that was what they came up with, throwing a witch in there who changes her mind.
So it's like, hey, you killed my boss.
Well, she quit.
You deserve it too.
She quit.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought she'd just go out on her own and be evil on her own, not necessarily be like, I quit, so I'm no longer evil.
Yeah, what I wonder is, okay, in the very beginning, the grandmother, now you gotta remember, I've seen this movie 1,000 times, the grandmother says that children smell like dog feces to witches, so why would she help people who smell like dog feces?
And I mean, there's like, she seemed to be like super excited about turning all the kids into mice too, earlier in the film.
Yeah, I don't know, I think... I'm glad that it had a happy ending with him becoming human again, but I also think they could have done it a little bit better.
I don't know. I actually think they could have made it a happy ending with him just being a mouse, personally, and it's like grandma and grandson adventures.
Yeah, or just give hope that maybe someday he'll be a boy again.
Yeah, they could have done something like that. Give hope, like they're gonna go visit the Grandmaster Witch's like castle and look around or something. Yeah.
I'd like to just pop in and say that works fine for thinking for an adult, but a child seeing that, they're probably thinking, what the hell is this?
Well, they're thinking, no homework, no school.
No, they're thinking, he's going to be a mouse forever, Mommy?
That's what I would have thought.
I don't really think... I guess that's true, but that's probably true. I probably wouldn't be talking about this movie as fondly, because when I was a child, I probably would have been terrified of being turned into a rat. That's probably true.
Yeah. And this movie didn't actually really gross that much, did it?
I know, actually, it didn't. Let me grab that real quick. It grossed.
Do your research, people.
I did. I had it pulled up. I just had to look at my little cheat sheet. It grossed $15 million. So better than Willy Wonka, but it's also, like 20 years later.
Okay, well... I will definitely say that I love The Witches, and I think it's tame enough as a children's film to show to a very young child.
I would completely agree. The only part I think in that movie that's pretty scary would probably be the reveal of the Grandmaster Witch, which is very well done, but a bit terrifying.
Yeah, just a poquito.
It's the low-hanging earrings, I think.
Yeah, the nose kind of creeps me out.
The long hanging ears and the really long, foot-long fingers.
And I'd like to just tell you guys something. Next Sunday is my birthday.
Ooh! Yeah. Happy early birthday!
Thank you very much. And I just found out something really interesting when I was doing my research for the next movie.
What's that?
On August 29th, for 1 week, Ghostbusters is going to have, in select theaters, a 30th anniversary re-release.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because the Blu-ray's coming out. It depends on if it's in the city I live in, but, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is.
That's really cool. I wonder if they're going to be showing it at the draft houses.
They're probably going to be showing it at the draft house.
Probably. They always show everything. Man, I was so upset when I missed the Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein double feature.
Oh, yeah. There was a horror one recently, and I thought about you, but... Oh, yay!
Anyway, Ghostbusters. It came out in 1984, so it's the middle between Willy Wonka and The Witch's release. And this was a blockbuster. This movie grossed $238,632,124.
Damn! Which is a lot.
In 1980s money.
Sure, yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah, it's still more than I make in a week. What I love about this movie is that the screenplay was actually co-written by the great Harold Ramis and Bill Murray.
I didn't know it was actually, but I didn't know Bill Murray co-wrote it too. That's
interesting. Mm-hmm. And it's got a great cast. It's got Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Bill Murray, Sigourney Weaver, Eddie Harrison, Rick Moranis. It's got lots of great people.
Rick Moranis,
who hasn't been in movies in 15 years.
Ooh. There is a terrible story behind that.
Oh yeah, it's sad.
Oh, I thought he just became a producer. What's the story?
Oh, let me make sure that's actually true before I just like spew it out because I don't want to say that and then be wrong. I'll tell Chris wrong information, but I'm not gonna say wrong
I take her word as
information.
gospel.
Okay, well, we can get back to that later. I love so much about this movie. When I was a kid, I had a little pretend game where I'd take all of my toys in my room, I'd set them up around the wall, and sometimes put them in little chairs, pillows, and stuff, and I would make movie tickets for them. I'd block up my
Aw.
windows, turn off the lights, and I'd have a movie theater in my room. Ghostbusters was always the top grossing picture all of my toys would come to.
Awesome.
Oh, that's really adorable.
Yeah, I didn't have many friends.
But you had a lot of stuffed animals.
I had a lot of stuffed animals.
Oh man.
And
I
yeah,
oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask you guys what your favorite parts are.
Okay, mine is probably, which is also everyone's favorite part of the movie, is the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man scene.
Oh yes.
It was so unexpected, and it was just such a wonderful scene because I mean you just felt for him because whenever I try and think, I tried doing that thinking about nothing after I watched that movie, and it's always like some random thing will pop up. So that part was just really hilarious and really unexpected.
Yeah, I actually didn't think he was evil when I was a kid. I thought he just didn't know what he was doing. I thought he was just walking around and bumping into things.
But then he like had that evil face. He was like, yeah.
Yeah, well that's true, but he was just too cute to take that face seriously.
And then they made him into like s'mores.
In one of the earlier drafts, he was going to be a lot scarier because, like, once they destroyed him, he was going to turn into a larger, like, version of Gozer instead, like this huge marshmallow, like, gross skeleton thing. It'd been
So I'm
terrible.
glad they didn't do that.
I'm glad they kept it the way it is. I mean, that movie, I think, in a lot of ways, is just kind of like one of those perfect movies.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
really nothing that I question in it. It's just perfect.
Yeah. I mean, good, solid writing, good ending, good beginning, good pacing.
Good acting.
Yeah. Well,
I
of
love
course.
the acting.
Of course.
Well, yeah, with a cast like that, but
My favorite part is probably the hotel scene where they are going in there with their gear.
oh yeah, that's great.
They load up into the elevator with that businessman going up to his room.
Oh, yeah. They kind of just have that conversation. Well, Bill Murray says something.
Yeah, it's like, what are you guys after? Cockroaches.
Did you guys watch the cartoon when you were kids?
Well, a long time ago.
Briefly.
I never understood why Slimer was evil in the movie and then apparently a little buddy friend in the cartoon.
How is he evil in the movie?
He's evil! All the
He's
ghosts
not
are
evil. He's just hungry.
Yes, and he destroys everything, he makes a mess, and in my book, that's evil.
That is profiling.
I work at a hotel, and if someone did that to the hotel I work at, like just that horrible, gross, like slime everywhere, eating all the food, I would be livid! I would be so mad for the housekeepers, because I wouldn't touch that shit.
Ectoplasm, I ain't touching that shit.
Mm-mm.
We'll have to agree to disagree.
Well,
He's just hungry.
they followed that same kind of logic of bad in the movie but good in the cartoon in the Beetlejuice
Yeah.
TV show. We should talk
Oh,
about
definitely.
Beetlejuice in a different podcast. I love that movie.
Oh, yeah, we'll bring up Beetlejuice in, I guess, a Tim Burton episode.
Beetlejuice.
Oh, that's a good idea.
The library ghost. That was my favorite scene.
Yeah, that was scary.
Yeah, and I've actually seen
Oh,
the
yeah, that was
production pictures of the thing they used, and even the dummy itself looks freaking scary.
Shh.
I thought you were actually shushing me for a second.
Oh,
No.
She's probably so mad. She's like,
Don't you shush me. I was just remembering the librarian.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I want to talk about Zool.
Zool. Let's talk
I-
about Zool.
Absolutely love the costuming for that scene. It was just so androgynous. I remember being like, when a kid watching it, I was like a little confused. But I always associated Zool as being like a woman. But man, that was just such great, like, ambiguous.
You gotta wonder why he decided to take the form of a woman.
It was very curious.
Like-
Yeah, also question, why so much did they have to... I mean, am I the only one who kind of thinks Zool kind of looked like David Bowie?
Yes.
I think partially the goal there. I think they were influenced by David Bowie.
Definitely that hairstyle.
Yeah.
But,
Like, hey.
yeah. Maybe it's just because David Bowie is so iconic, so 80s, that when you look at anything designed in the 80s, it kind of looks like David Bowie.
Yeah. That's true.
I think most of the special effects aged really well in this movie. Most of them.
Most of them. The only thing that probably you have to like kind of question is those what are those, like
proton packs?
Hellhounds?
Oh, the Hellhounds?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's hard to do large physical monsters and make them look real.
And run around. Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah. I mean, they look bad in CGI too, I'm sure. Can you imagine if Michael Bay got a hold of Ghostbusters?
Don't joke.
Don't
you say those words.
I bet you it's going to happen if Bill Murray loses his integrity.
Any regrets? Ghostbusters 3.
You know, they have been talking about it for years and years and years.
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd, I know, like, really, really wants to do it.
I would only want to see it if they got Rick Moranis back in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, speaking of Rick Moranis. So part of the reason why he left acting, which is a little sad, warning, is so his wife died of breast cancer, and then a few years after that he quit acting to focus on parenting.
I think that might be true.
Actually, it is. I looked it up.
Yeah, okay. Good. So, we're informed of this fact.
Yes.
So that's kind of why he disappeared out of nowhere. I actually thought he, like, died.
Really?
Yeah, I thought he just, you know...
Well, you know, those Canadians, they're like the wind. They just...
They just whoosh.
Whoosh. Speaking of Harold Ramis, we've got to talk about Little Shop one of these days, because that's one of my favorite Harold Ramis.
I was just about to say that. We have to talk about that.
Steve Martin in there, too, man. He's great.
So, to sum Ghostbusters up, great movie. Most of the special effects have aged well. Some of them haven't.
David Bowie.
David Bowie, Zool. And are you the gatekeeper?
Are you the keymaster?
Poor Sigourney Weaver. She got, like, possessed and raped by Rick Moranis.
Yeah. That is kind of... I mean, technically, Rick Moranis was raped as well, if you think about it.
Yeah, I picture her being more dominant than Rick Moranis.
She's so beautiful in that movie. Like, I have to say it.
She's beautiful in everything. She's beautiful today. She's not...
She looks the same.
She's aged gracefully.
Yeah, she has.
But her hair looks really, really good in this movie.
Oh, because it's all curly. And
yeah, it's just glorious.
Bad. I know, I was, like, looking at pictures of her, and I was like, man, damn, girl. It was good.
You got it going on.
Fun fact, actually, it's not fun fact at all. I learned I was the same height as her, and I was super excited. She's 5'11", giant.
And Julianne, did you set up our Twitter?
I did set up our Twitter. Hallow-Holics, which Madeline will put in the blog, so it'll be easier to spell. I set it up, and I'm probably going to post something on it today about, yay, it's our second podcast. Yeah, I'm going to try and be more active on it, though. I haven't really been too active yet, but I'm going to try and be more active. And...
Well, we've only had one episode so far, so I think you're doing good.
Thank you.
And I think that's also a really good way to get a hold of us.
If there's anything that you want us to talk about or something,
suggestions for back.
That'd be good, because we definitely need to know what people want to listen to.
I'm a big mouth. I keep hijacking everyone's sentences. And Chris?
Yes?
Are you going to set something up for the podcast?
Let's see. My good graces.
Your good graces.
My good graces.
Your good graces.
Tell you what, if anybody would like to know anything more about Chris, my personal life, where I live exactly, just put @Chris and then add in the hashtag.
You don't even know what you're talking about right now.
I don't know a lot about Twitter, right?
Actually, Chris has something he can talk about. Unfortunately, it's not really related to childhood horror, but recently we played a little bit of the Silent Hill. What is it?
Demo.
There
was a demo out for a new Silent Hill game. Just the most horrific. That we had to stop playing a demo of a video game. Can you imagine that, Madeline?
Did Julianne have to cover her eyes?
I was covering my eyes.
She was covering her eyes the whole time. Okay, imagine this. In the most high-def graphics you've ever seen, you wake up in the basement, cockroaches crawling around on it. And then you get up off the ground, you open the door, and start walking through a hallway, right? You loop around, Meanwhile, clock reads 11:59. You keep going down this hallway. You get to the end finally, open the door, you're back in the same damn hallway. This time you're walking through it, you start hearing knocking on one of the doors.
And on the radio, there's like a radio playing, and it's talking about a murder about a guy who like shot his pregnant wife.
Oh, well, this sounds like a wonderful place to spend your vacation.
And there's like pictures of like a family, and it's like really messy and dirty, and there's like garbage, and you keep describing.
Roaches everywhere. And point is, you loop through multiple times until finally you get a door that creaks open, and you hear a baby crying.
Oh, not the babies!
Yeah, the baby. Yeah. You peek into this door. You can't really see anything all that much, and a woman's face pops out of nowhere. This horrific woman's-looking face. She slams the door shut.
Well, you're a stranger in her house, like sleeping in her cockroach basement. Of course, she's gonna slam the door in your face.
Let's see. It would be a lot less horrific if she wasn't smiling at you when she did it.
Oh.
So,
it was so scary.
From the demo alone, would you say it's like scarier than the previous Silent Hill games?
I would say it's possibly one of the scariest games that's going to be coming out.
Oh, well, do you know the release date?
Not yet. They like literally just. This is like the first thing. Interesting enough, the people who created this game, or I don't know if you've ever heard of the Metal Gear series.
Yes, I've heard of the Metal Gear series.
Okay, the creator of that is teaming up with Guillermo del Toro for this game.
Oh, shoot. Dang.
Yeah.
Guillermo. There's some...
Guillermo.
Oh, my God. We're all gonna die.
Yeah, man. That is possibly going to be the scariest thing in history for me.
Also, really, just to like keep up the creep factor, is when they released this demo, they didn't announce it or anything. They just had a download for, what was it called, PT?
They just put PT, which they revealed later was playable teaser, my mistake.
Playable teaser?
Yeah.
You know, I've noticed that this first-person thing with creeping hallways and stuff, this is becoming a very common theme in a lot of video games recently.
Yeah. The hallway's a scary thing.
We need to talk about I think next podcast we should talk about horror video games, because you know what? I actually can handle those.
You can handle those? Okay.
Yeah, I can.
I haven't played many, but I'm going to go ahead and pick the arcade/PlayStation 2 shooter game Vampire Knight.
Wow, that is ambiguous. I have not actually even played that myself.
I got it. I got it years ago when I first got my PS2, and it's the only horror game I played all the way through. So.
What I can think of? Oh man, what was that game with the psych asylum?
Oh, Outlast.
Outlast. I'm gonna tell you, we should talk about Outlast.
Okay, Chris, I think you should do Resident Evil, because that's one of the most classic horror video games out there.
I agree, it is a classic horror game, though as of recently it's become the Michael Bay of video games. It's all about the explosions in action now.
Oh man, next podcast, I'm just gonna go ahead and warn everyone for next podcast, I'm just gonna constantly be quoting Resident Evil whenever I say Chris's name. I can only...
She can only say it in Wesker's voice.
I hope these aren't Chris's socks.
Yeah. Every time he played that game, all I could hear was okay, we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, let's save it for next time. And after that, we'll do what we promised last time. Twilight Zone. And apparently, I've heard from a few UK friends that they apparently don't know what Twilight Zone is over there.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's like we're in a Twilight Zone episode now. The horror.
Few favorite podcasts. Okay. There is a podcast I listen to called Horror Etc. That's Horror ETC. You can find it on the iTunes store. And I would definitely recommend giving it a listen if you like horror podcasts.
I can recommend a website. So I don't know how many people go to Reddit, but definitely check out any of the you go to reddit.com and then you put /r/ and then you can go to Creepy or No Sleep. And No Sleep is a bunch of really short stories short stories people write that you're supposed to believe are like encounters they had, and they can get really scary, and some of them are obviously going to be dumb. But some of them can get pretty scary. I read one recently about a guy who his mom came home, but she was acting really odd, so he realized, that that's not my mom. That doesn't sound scary, but if you read through it is.
Oh man, I've read some creepy stuff on No Sleep. One of my favorites was a story about the deep net, like darker than the deep net, but the dark web or something, and it's like,
oh, deep web, yeah.
Have you read those stories?
I've read about the deep web, and I'm too afraid to go any deeper.
Oh yeah, No Sleep has some great stories on that. I don't know if I really believe that, looking at a website, a bunch of terrorists are going to pop up at my door and kidnap me and take me to Belgium, but,
You don't know that, though.
I don't know that.
It's cool. You'd have Julianne backing you up. You'd suddenly get a phone call. You'd hear, I don't know who you are, but I must tell you, I have a certain set of skills. I will find you.
Is that supposed to be who? Me?
That's you.
My skill set? I have 3 major skills. Untying knots, swimming, and helping people move.
So if those can be combined into saving someone, then you've got yourself a great movie.
Yeah. Don't get yourself tied up, Madeline.
Don't get yourself tied up in a swimming pool.
Conclusion. The Witches. Amazing. Except, according to Chris. Ghostbusters. Amazing. All thought by all of us. Everyone should watch that movie. Nobody has ever disliked that movie. I've never met anyone who's disliked that movie. And Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Loved by Chris and me. Madeline thinks just the story's okay, but she doesn't really know
It's an amazing movie. Yep.
So that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Hallow-Holics podcast. You can find us on iTunes, and don't forget to check out the blog, hallowholics.blogspot.com or hallowholics.wordpress.com.
Or our Twitter, Hallow-Holics. At Twitter. I'm still learning the lingo on that.
Hashtag Twitter, hashtag Hallow-Holics. And if you want to talk to Chris, add a hashtag Chris.
Add hashtag Chris at tweeter.com or whatever that thing is. Tweeter?
Said the 20-year-old. Said the 20-something-year-old.
All right, guys, thanks for listening. We'll catch you up later next week, hopefully, and we'll talk about, what was the topic again? Horror video games.
Horror video games.
Yes. So, Oh, it looks like she's home. Well, we're about to have dinner, and see you later.
Yeah.
See ya.